Hi, I'm Gemma Elsworth. I'm Deputy Director for Data Capability here at DWP. I have my questions. I enjoy doing them until they come out and then I regret them immediately. Tell us about your career. I have worked in data for 20 years and data sort of chose me. It wasn't my plan to end up in data. I actually hated maths at school, but I was quite good at it, so ended up taking it through to A-level. Then I dropped it and did a degree in business management. And then when I was looking for a sandwich year course, I ended up in a credit analysis role. And I did a year of credit analysis where I learned how to code to get data out of a system, and then went back to university. And then when I was looking for an actual job, everyone kept coming back to me and going, oh, we don't want you for this job, but we've got this analyst job that we think that you'll be really good at. So once I'd got that analyst experience, it was really hard to not end up in an analyst role. And in the end, I took a job in marketing analysis that enabled me to do analysis on the kinds of customers that were using the retail business that I was a part of, and I found that a lot more interesting than the credit analysis, and that led me into web analysis. So from the marketing analysis, I discovered web analysis, and that really, but it was like I found my niche. It was the kind of analysis where immediately you could see the impact of the analysis you were doing. So you would say, I've seen this and I think it means that this is happening and you should make this change. And that change could be made on the website within a day or a week. And you could actually see the impact of the work that you were doing in real time. And that led me into understanding a little bit more about websites and how they were coded and how we collected data from them. And there was just a whole treasure trove of really interesting lines of work to understand. From there, I did a small stint of product ownership, because in order to get the information out of the websites, you had to develop a really good relationship with software developers. And that led me into product ownership because I was quite good at translating what the marketing teams needed into what our website developers needed to build. And then I found the vacancy here at DWP, which was to do web analysis and to put website tracking onto the websites. And once I joined DWP, I got the opportunity to develop my career from here. So I moved into head of role for digital performance analysis, which enabled me to build out a community of digital performance analysts. And I really loved that. I really loved the people side of that job, enabling people to develop their careers, being able to place experts into teams and see the difference that they were able to make, and to develop out that community and see it grow and see people do really well in that space. From there, I moved into this role as the head of data capability, where I'm attempting to replicate that out for the whole of the data practice. So to make sure that we've got data professionals out in the business able to help us to make the right decisions about the right data to collect and the way to collect it, so that we can support our digital business lines to make data-driven decisions. What roles does data play in enabling DWP to provide its services? Well, data forms the foundation of everything that we do at DWP, and it probably always has, but now there's so much data and so much opportunity to use it in our decision making that it's become more powerful and more important than it's ever been. And by using that data, we're able to improve efficiencies. We're able to take data in one place and enable it to stop our citizens having to input lots of information twice, or send us documents that at one time they would have had to send us, and now we can just get them from somewhere else because we have that data already. And it also lets us see when we make changes to our systems, whether those changes have made an impact for the better or for the worse. So that means that we can make decisions about, okay, we've made this change and it has done what we expected, so brilliant, let's keep the change in. But also, we've made this change and what we've learned is that it wasn't quite the right thing to do, so let's go back to the way it was before because that was better for the citizen. How does working for a government department differ to a career in private sector? I think it is very different being in public sector versus private sector in a lot of ways, but then in other ways, there are some huge similarities. So I think the biggest thing that's different is that when you're here, you're understood as a person with a life outside of work, and it seems much more accepted that you maybe have other priorities alongside your job in a way that I always felt really guilty about personally when I worked in private sector. I think there's such a feeling here as well that you're doing something for good. So when I was in the private sector and I used data to make decisions, that data was always about how are we going to change this website to get more money out of people, to make more profit. Whereas now, when we make changes to our websites and we measure those differences, it's about how are we making this journey easier for the person who needs something from us and is probably in a really vulnerable place in their lives. It became immediately apparent to me when I came here to DWP that everyone here really cares about the work that we're doing, really cares about making sure that we're able to support vulnerable people, and is really conscious that the money that we spend doing this job is taxpayer money and should be spent and used responsibly. And that, within my first week here, I got all of that feeling from being here. There are some things that are more difficult. It's a really big company, so making huge amounts of change is really slow. But then when you do make huge amounts of change, it makes such a big impact on everyone here and also the citizens that use our services. And that's also true in private sector companies. Big private sector companies take a long time to make change, and sometimes things are really slow. That's more of a thing about working in a big company than working in public sector. What's the biggest misconception people have about working in data? I think probably the biggest misconception is that everyone who works in data is a bit of a nerd and a bit of an introvert. And also that everyone has some sort of maths degree or maths background or went to university and did coding or has a doctorate, those sorts of things. And that's not been my experience. There are some nerdy introverts. Sometimes I can be a nerdy introvert too. But it takes all kinds of people within data, and there's so many different roles. There are analytical roles, but also development roles. So data engineering, building out the pipelines that we use to get data from one place to another. In data science, we've got people who are looking at how can we build out machine learning models and make them part of our website so that we're able to do really clever analysis right at the point where the citizen is interacting with us. And also, there's a need for being a leader in this space, being able to present confidently about the work that you're doing, and being able to use that data that you have and turn it into information that will influence and inspire people to make the right decisions. So there's a huge amount of skills that you need besides being able to look at analysis and make decisions from it. And also, I don't have a degree in maths. I didn't plan to do data as a career. It wasn't my choice from the beginning of my education. You can have a job in data even if that isn't where you started. There's lots of opportunities to learn things about data, but there's also so much that you can gain from data by having interpersonal skills and an interest in the area and not necessarily all of the degree and knowledge in the first place. What skills do you need to have a successful career in data? As I mentioned, I don't have a degree in data, and I didn't study it with the intention of this being my career, but I learned so much that I needed to do this job in my first few graduate roles. So I learned about coding, I learned how to have an eye for detail and how to interpret the data and turn that into a conversation that I could have with someone to influence them to make a decision. You do need to have that attention to detail, but also then you need to be able to talk to people, you need to be able to present confidently. And as your career grows, you need to be able to sell the idea of the work that you're doing to someone. At some point, you're probably going to want someone to invest in your idea and allow you to carry it forward. So you need to be able to tell the story of the work that you're doing and its potential for the business that you're in. And you also need to develop leadership skills. You want to be able to grow in your career, and that means that at some point you're going to have to influence people at scale and lead others and have your ideas inspire. So that's a really important skill. And I would say one of the big things is to be open as a person to being part of a community. So what we have here at DWP is a huge data practice community where we have other people who have careers in data that have come from all different places. And by interacting with that community, you're able to learn from each other and you're able to support one another and think about and develop your ideas. So it's not just about having that maths degree, although that is a great start. It's also about learning on the job, being open to learning how to do a bit of coding, having that logical mindset, and also then developing those leadership, presentation, conversational skills, and the ability to work with your stakeholders to get the best out of your career. What's the best thing about working in DWP Digital? I love working in DWP Digital, and when I first arrived, I didn't know if I would, but the thing about doing work for people who are at difficult points in their lives, and everything that we do is about making things better for citizens, particularly here in digital. What we're saying is, how can we make this process to claim a benefit easier? How can we make it easier for this person who's just suffered a bereavement? How can we help people to understand our services in the best possible way so that they get the help that they need? And even if your job is filling out the reporting that enables an area to function, or leading out on our developing data strategy, the final outcome is always the same, that we are looking to create services and improve the efficiency of DWP to enable people who need us to be able to get that support as quickly and as effectively as possible.